if I'm the NFL, I count both teams with a tie, or I give both teams a win, and I carry on about my business.
Yeah, there's no point in sitting down, wasting man hours trying to figure out how we can fit in another game in the last week of the season. Like it's no point to do that. Like I think you made a good point. Let's counter the tie. It's a tie, and let's just move forward, and then let's worry about this kid, man. Because anything else gonna look insensitive. And speaking of insensitive, Skip Bayless, right? I put his tweet up. This is Skip Bayless, man. Hold on, let me actually take this. Let me take this comment down real quick. We'll get to the comments in a minute, but Skip Bayless, his first tweet he said, "I've seen so many horrific injuries suffered on football fields, yet never have I seen a reaction like this." That's a good point. Like both teams all were surrounded around the kid. Both coaching staffs, everybody. That reaction was, you knew it was serious, right? And I think that's what he was saying in the first tweet. Right. And in every other situation I witnessed or covered, the game always went on fairly quickly. The attitude was, hey, that's football, right? Which he's right. Somebody break their leg. What happened to Dak Prescott 2 years ago with his ankle? They kept playing, but that was a bad injury. People was crying. People was really hurt to see that, that horrible injury. But he said, look, man, it's football. People just go on, right? He said for these players, this was different. So there's nothing wrong with what Skip said on that first tweet. You agree?
Yeah,
okay. Then he comes back and says, okay, it's been a while. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game, right? So he's speaking what the NFL is thinking about doing, but how, right? So he's saying like, how do you do that? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which certainly seems so irrelevant. So the last part kind of, if you was questioning what he was trying to talk about, the last part says, which certainly seems irrelevant. He's letting you know, man, everything the NFL is thinking about as far as postponing the game and trying to reschedule it seems really irrelevant right now on how serious this was. So I get where he was going with it. I don't think there was nothing majorly wrong with the tweet, except for the fact that your mind shouldn't even be really going there at this moment.
Okay.
Right. Then he got a lot of backlash, and he had to come back an hour later and say nothing is more important than the young man's health. That was the point of my last tweet. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I prayed for him, and I'm going to continue to pray for him. So I don't see nothing majorly wrong with it, except that he didn't really think this out before he tweeted that.
Well, this is the thing about Skip Bayless that I've noticed, and I've noticed it more recently than anything. To be a person that your job is words, right? That's your job. It is to talk words, sports. Right. That's your job, right? He's very bad with them. Very bad with them. And it's his delivery. It's almost arrogant. You know what I mean? And people don't take kind to arrogance. You understand what I'm saying? Like, how do you how the hell do you think you postpone the game? This dude died on the field. That's how the fuck you repost it. I mean, you postpone it. That's how. That's not a difficult question to answer at all. And it's like, it's almost like you thinking out loud, and I understand the context of the post. It's just very poorly written, very poorly written.
I don't even think it was poorly written. I just think like if you're saying that it is irrelevant to even think about it, then it was irrelevant for you to tweet it.
So, to tweet it, exactly.
Yeah, it was irrelevant. Like it was not necessary. But Skip, if you follow him on Twitter, this is what he does. Even during First Take show, he's tweeting every 30 minutes and saying, me and Shannon about to discuss this. Me and Shannon about to discuss this. You know, he does it to pull his audience in. And then, like, when he watch a Cowboys game or he watch a Tom Brady's game or anybody that he likes, he's tweeting throughout the game, especially LeBron. LeBron, take over, LeBron. He tweets throughout the game. Every game, whether it's in the NBA, NFL, he probably tweets 8 to 10 times during the game. Right. So he's that's his habit. He's always tweeting, always talking about what's going on and all that. You know, he's always giving commentary. But this time he was in Skip Bayless, I work for ESPN mode, I work for Fox mode, where he should have just been a human at that moment. Like, he was still working, and he shouldn't have been. Even the announcers that was announcing the game was still in I work for the NFL mode, and they're talking about the same thing Skip was talking about. How can we postpone this, and how we, like, you should have, like, all that should have went out the window.
You all know, I don't know if you've been watching. I've been watching ESPN and ABC. I've been watching simultaneously ever since this happened. And, you know, Joe Buck he's the color commentator, right? And Troy Aikman is there as your subject matter expert, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of the way they tag team it. Joe Buck was the one that was mostly like, he was trying to figure out or trying to talk to the audience to be like, how, how do we like, no matter what happens, like, we got a football game to play, right? And Troy Aikman asked him a question like, but how? How? Like, how do you play?
Yeah.
And they were like, he was like, he talked about, for a second, he talked about when Michael Irvin broke his neck playing the Eagles. And he was like, I didn't even want to continue then. He was like, I don't know how you continue. He's like, I don't think you can continue after CPR.
Yeah.
And then Booger McFarland came on and was like, we're insensitive. We're desensitized to players getting injured, because players get injured every game. Somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And the show must go on. Next man up.
And that's a gladiator way to think of it, man. Like, we don't think the gladiators, like, we still operating like it's the gladiators, man.
Right.
And that's how we look at athletes. And look, this goes back to not just something as serious as death. This goes back to something as serious as mental health too, man. Like, we was desensitized to Ben Simmons last year when he was like, man, I can't play. And everybody was calling him all types of soft hoes and B words and all this. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I mean, at some point we got to realize